Hello and welcome to the Wine Educate podcast and YouTube channel. This is episode 84 and I am your host, Joanne Close. So in the last few episodes, we have been talking about the Northern Rhone. We discussed the Mistral and what it does. And now we're talking about the Southern Rhone. Southern Rhone and the Northern Rhone are really very different. They have three things in common. They have the Rhone River, they have the Mistral wind, and they also have some similar grapes, but that's where it stops. Southern Rhone has far more different grapes, different wine styles, different soil types, and so on and so forth. First, just a little revisit of what we have in the Northern Rhone. So just one red grape, right? Syrah is our hero grape, and a few white grapes, Viognier, Marsanne, Roussanne. And the vines here are trained on individual stakes to protect them from this fierce, cold northern wind, the Mistral. They're planted on the very steep slopes that lead down to the riverbank. So the region is very long and skinny with all the vines overlooking the river. But when we get to the Southern Rhone, we spread out more. This region makes far more wine than the Northern Rhone, and we have lots of variety. There's up to 36 recognized grapes here. We have white, red, and now rosé has been introduced. This region also makes vendu naturel. I'm not going to talk about that today, but just so you know, and also a little bit of sparkling, right? Just a little bit. The climate here is Mediterranean, which means mild winters and warm, dry summers. With this, you just get very little rainfall. Most of the rainfall will happen in the winter months, and so this region is prone to drought. The climate weirding and getting warmer has not helped. Within France, this region is most at risk for climate change issues, for drought. So they are allowed to irrigate in some areas. They got to write a letter, get some permission, but they can do some irrigation. The terrain is much flatter than the north. This is an issue because now we don't really have natural windbreaks and protection from the Mistral. So in some instances, they need to create some windbreaks. It is a very pretty region, the Southern Rhone. Lots of Roman influence. This is where the Point de Gare is. If you had a chance to visit, really cool. And our big hero grape here is no longer Syrah. It is Grenache. Grenache makes up more than half of the plantings here. It is a heat-loving grape, so it is happy and ripens nicely with red fruit, spice. Oh, and your book uses the word generous, which I like. Generous alcohol. It can get quite high in alcohol, really ripened sugars, and all those sugars will then translate over into alcohol, which is why blending is so important here to help mitigate some of these high alcohol issues. In warmer years, it can develop baked or jammy fruit flavors. Grenache is planted as a bush vine or gobelet, meaning it doesn't use any wires. It's like an individual plant, like a mini tree, maybe. And here in the Southern Rhone, it's trained low to the ground to protect it from the wind. So if it's low to the ground, it's less influenced and less damaged by the Mistral. The blending. So we know Grenache is the biggie, but what else is it blended with? Well, Syrah is still important and makes up about 1/4 of the plantings here. And then we also have Mourvedre, Carignan, Cinsaut, Chateauneuf that all contribute to the blend. So Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre got the nickname GSM as a Rhône blend. So you might see some folks out in California. I think Australia also uses this term putting it on the label, and it's sort of understood that this is what they're trying to achieve is this Syrah Grenache Mourvedre or Grenache Syrah Mourvedre Rhône style blend. Okay, we have a few soil types here, but perhaps the one that's the most important and at least most talked about, certainly this starts in level 1, we start talking about the galets. So these are these round stones, like river stones. Find them in Chateauneuf du Pape and some of the other regions there. Gundas, Vacaras, I believe, has some. So what is their significance? Well, if you've ever gone outside on a warm day and picked up a rock, held it in your hand, maybe you might have had to drop it because it's hot, right? And it's radiating the heat. Or maybe you've had one of those fancy spa treatments where they put those rocks on your back. I have yet to do that, but sounds nice. Anyway, this warm rock is doing the same thing, right? It's like gently releasing heat. Well, what's happening here is a similar concept. These rocks in the vineyard heat up during the day, absorb a lot of heat, and then the sun goes down, but these rocks are still warm and they're still releasing this heat up into the vines, prolonging the ripening process. I actually found my Chateauneuf du Pape rock the other day. You're really not supposed to do that, by the way. I thought it had been lost or perhaps absconded by one of the children and buried in the yard. I don't know. But I was happy to find it again. Well, red wines dominate, but we still have some rosé, right? Thank goodness we have some rosé, and some white wines. Our white grapes from the Northern Rhone continue down here. That's Marsanne, Roussanne, and Viognier. And now we're adding in Grenache Blanc, Claret, and Boubelenc. That's a tough one to say. So we do grow that at Camp Lezens. And every time I say it, my father tells me I'm saying it wrong. So I don't know. You try your best, right? We try our best. What are the whites like? The best whites are richly textured and full-bodied, high in alcohol with low to medium acidity and subtle fruit aromas. Little or no new oak is used here on the whites. What is the winemaking like in the Southern Rhone? Well, anything goes. There's no typical Southern Rhone red style here because there's so many different winemaking techniques used. Cool or warm fermentations, depending on the grape. Aging in anything. Stainless steel, concrete vats, large old oak, sometimes new French oak, smaller barrels for the very premium wines, but it's not super common. New oak is often avoided. So therefore, you get a range of styles from light and fruity to bold and meaty. I will also mention that 2/3 of the production here is made by cooperatives, the co-ops. For a reminder of what that is, it is an organization or an entity where growers can bring their grapes and it will be put together with other growers' grapes and make a viable wine. So say your uncle gives you 2 rows of vines, which, wonderful. But okay, you're not going to build a whole new winery for 2 rows of vines, but maybe you want to make some wine. Perfect. You pick it, you bring it to the co-op. They make a wine, so then you can show up and get your share of the wine, or they sell it and maybe make a little profit. So really important here in this region, makes up 2/3 of the wines produced. All right, so next week, we're going to talk about some of these appellations more specifically. And I promise that next week, I'll give you the Southern Rhone quiz. I know I didn't have a quiz this week, don't be mad, but next week it's coming. So if you haven't already subscribed to the newsletter, please do. I have study tips for everyone at all different levels, level 1, 2, and 3. So if you're a level 3 student, I give you an essay question every week because that's the tough part about the exam. I know many of you have your exams coming up. So you go to wineeducate.com and you'll see it on the homepage, the green newsletter sign up button, and you can sign up. All right, have a lovely weekend. Next week, we'll talk about the Southern Rhone appellations.